Welcome back, guys, to episode number 3 of Good Cool, Bad Cool, a brand new podcast in the ANZ region, tackling all the deep diving issues that have been happening over the past, last week, really, I suppose, in the ANZ HGC Premier Division. As always, the same structure does take place where we discussed last week's results. We go into some in-depth replays, some defining moments, as well as the power rankings and what we expect to see going forward into week number 4. Same panel as last time, myself, Skimmy. We've got Strider from Crimson and good old Morton, the guy behind the curtains, which don't actually work, hence why he looks so light. Beautiful, beautiful figure. But this week, a very special guest in the ANZ scene, one of ANZ's finest exports, never losing a single championship since the start of ANZ HOTS. It's none other than robadobah. How are you, bro?
I'm doing well. Thank you for the introduction.
Always here for you, mate. Always here for you. I suppose the most pressing question for a lot of people is life really greener on the other side now that you've moved to Europe from ANZ?
I mean, it's probably more fun playing HOTS over here, but you're not a big fish in a small pond anymore. And sometimes it does feel a little bad when you're at the bottom of the league, but, just have to try to get better.
In the grand scheme of things, though, you'd say it was definitely worth the challenges and the hurdles that you've had to climb through to make it there?
Yeah, I think it's definitely worth moving. If you have the opportunity to do it, it's following your dream kind of thing.
I like it, boys. I like it, boys. Should we just jump straight into it then? Let's actually have a look at the results from last week, starting off with, for me, personally, the biggest one of the entire phase so far, Nomia up against Crimson. Now, the result shows it was a 2-0 in favour of Nomia, but for me, this was a clash of titans, arguably the two top teams in the region right now. The result, I mean, it doesn't really speak for itself. Both games were like 20-minute fiestas. Crimson, for the most part, were actually ahead by healthy margins. But these team fights, this really goes back to the idea of what Nomia are known for, right? The execution in these team fights. So many times they're down to 10%, and they just somehow, some way managed to win those ones there, Strider.
Yeah, super close. I think pre-12, Crimson were winning both games.
Yeah.
I think especially Dragonshire, that was probably one that should have won a couple of times. Penta just seemed to get out. You're right, 10%, even less probably, just getting out and just probably saving them that push, that 4v5 push. But it was good to see, I think, Crimson losing to Downfall and then probably not being as sharp as we expected them to be over the first few weeks. It was good to finally see them actually, show what they're about, and hopefully this now presses on for the second half of the season.
Morton?
Yeah, I mean, they were both really close games. I think everyone did expect it to be close, but everyone also expected Nomia to come out with the win. Yeah, I think Crimson did show up on the day, and that they're obviously definitely capable of taking out Nomia. And now they have, how many weeks until... Because the Nomia Crimson game is the final game of the season, so they've still got a lot of time to improve and kind of take that loss, learn from it, and look to take out the second matchup.
Now, I know, Rob, you've, on the off chance, been able to actually catch up with some of the ANZ games. Were you able to see this week's in particular?
I watched both of them. Yeah,
what was your take on that matchup in particular?
I just couldn't believe Crimson lost both games after being ahead by multiple levels early. I think the Tomb game was even more, an even bigger throw, I guess, because Tomb is such a snowbally map. If you're ahead level 12 to 10 and you win a fight, you can just take away all the gems, but I guess Crimson just weren't able to do that. Yeah. And then the second Nomia won one fight, they turned in about 20 web weavers, so...
Yeah. It's like triple web weaver handing. Yeah, it was ridiculous. You've never seen it before.
But yeah, I don't know. I think as Crimson gets more confidence, they might be able to close out those kinds of games a little easier. It's because... I know from experience, when you don't think you're the best, even in situations where you are winning, you sometimes don't do the thing that you need to do to be able to close it out. So maybe it's just a matter of them needing to find that extra little bit of confidence before they can win that kind of set.
Yeah.
Maybe all it takes is Rob coming down, do a bit of coaching with the boys.
Send over the contract, mate. Another big one for me that actually really stood out was the Downfall up against Quick Match Warriors series. Now, this actually wasn't meant to be on stream, but because it went down to the full best of 3, I was fortunate enough actually to cast that third and final game. Now, Downfall is this team, right? As you mentioned before, Strider, they were able to 2-0 Crimson, but then against all odds, Quick Match Warriors, as the Messiah in Morton did predict, he thought we were going to roast him. He thought we were going to meme him. But this guy, I mean, he's blinded by the light. That is why he is Jesus reincarnate, right? He manages to call this one. Quick Match Warriors win. And I mean, it was like her on tank, right? I was roasting him a little bit on stream. I was going like, just press sanctification, please. Just press it, right? But it never seemed to happen. He was always getting interrupted. But then one time he lands it, and then you could just see the comp just clean sweep. That for me was a fantastic series there, Morty.
Yeah, I think QM Warriors, you know, they were a bit shaky, but like there were so many team fights where it looked like it was going in their favor, right? And then like one of them would get popped, or like Sanct just weren't going off, and I was like, oh my god, they're not going to be able to do it, because I think they were leading for the majority of the game, right? And then there was like one really late game team fight where everything just kind of seemed to work out for them. I think they got a pick on the office early on, and they just like snowballed the fight from there. But yeah, I was really happy to see QM Warriors win. It made me look like I was intelligent for a bit. Yeah, good showing from the lads.
I think that's why the light's beaming in so much. It's just the reincarnation of Jesus here, you know?
I know. He says I've got curtains on, but clearly there's some divine intervention happening.
Yeah, that's right.
Like I look like, I don't know, I'm jaundiced, I'm all orange and stuff, but then, you know, this guy's got the complete opposite reaction. You know, this is what happens in Christchurch. Any other results?
Can I just ask how did you actually manage to make that prediction? Like, what was your logic for QM Warriors being able to beat Downfall?
Because I don't really think Downfall that good, honestly.
Did they beat Crimson?
They beat Crimson. Like, I don't know, that day was like a huge outlier. Like the way they performed that day, like their draft was really clean, and then I think they performed really well with the draft. But then like the previous weeks, and like I've scrimmed them a lot as well, like myself actually playing them in scrims, and they just do not seem to perform that well. So like that Crimson game actually like blew my mind as to what happened. And then QM Warriors, like I think they haven't really shown up in official matches much, even though they do have quite a few decent players. So I was like, you know what? If QM Warriors like play solid and Downfall, you know, they don't have that standout performance like they had against Crimson, I think it'll be like really close. So might as well go for QM Warriors.
Okay.
I think people have just been sleeping on them for far too long. I mean, I think I've seen in your predictions that you've actually been saying, you know, Quick Match Warriors, they might be down here in these power rankings, but still, these guys can definitely take games off these top teams. So, I mean, that for me was a massive series. My question before those, Strider, any other results here? I mean, I'm looking at Aztec Rich Gang, Outlaws Aztec. These are close matches, but that really is going to be that sort of jostle for that mid-tier part of the table.
I think it showed this week Aztecs finally stepping up. They beat Rich Gang 2-1. You know, they could have been Outlaws. It was a close game, their third set. Yeah. So I think that was the biggest mover for this week. Obviously, Downfall probably going down a little bit, losing to QM Warriors, and Aztec going up a bit. We've all been talking about QM Warriors, how we think they're going to take a few games like this, and obviously Morton was just the Messiah that jumped in and said it was going to happen this week. So a few movers through the mid-tables.
I think recently we emphasized a lot on how much potential Aztec had as a team.
Yeah.
They're very young. Like they've got two fairly new players in Lucker and Dommy. And we were like, you know what? Right now, I think Rich Gang will take it out against Aztec. But then Aztec come out with the 2-1 against Rich Gang. And then later on in the day, they go 2-1 against Outlaws, who we're like, oh, they're a comfortable third place team. So I think I'm really happy to see them kind of performing now. Whereas because previous weeks they weren't playing as well as I thought they would, and this week they've just kind of come out of the gate swinging. So good to see.
Well, yeah, last week we both, all of us are almost potentially thinking Aztec would beat this Rich Gang. We all went for Rich Gang, but it was very much on the fence.
I think it comes down to the idea that we said before, right? Rich Gang have that kind of that skill ceiling. They don't scrim, but they have these experienced players on their teams that, you know, should mean that they're a higher level, but Aztec are that team that have the most development potential. And for them to come out with a 2-1 like that shows that potential has been achieved a lot quicker than, you know, what we predicted going forward into this one. Anything that really shines out for you in particular, Rob? I mean, I don't really know how much time you do get to watch the scene as a whole, but these results, are there any things that, you know, you wouldn't have predicted, or anything that really shines out to you? It's like, wow, this group of players, obviously since you were you know, grinding Hero League as much as Arcana in some degree, I didn't expect these players to bond together or these teams to get the results they've achieved so far.
I think 3-7 is so close at the moment. Like, it's hard to really predict results. And then I expected the top two to be the top two by quite an easy margin.
Do How far ahead would you put Outlaws? Would you even say Outlaws are even ahead of the others, or?
Well, that's what I was going to say. The only surprise I think is that, well, to me, is that Outlaws have not done as well as I thought they would. Like, I thought they'd probably be a solid third and maybe contest for the top two.
Yeah.
But it just seems right now that there's not really much difference between them and the teams just below them.
Well, in saying that, they did go 2-1 against Crimson because they were fairly close games. But then again, yeah, we all thought Outlaws would be an easy third, but then they're dropping games to Aztec, and then I think they dropped a game last week as well to another one of the 37 place teams. So yeah, they go over the season.
Yeah, Rich Gang.
Yeah.
Should we jump into it, boys? Should we jump into the power rankings going forward into week number 4?
Let's do it.
Alrighty, guys, time for the power rankings going to week number 4. Not much has really changed in the top 3 section of this bracket. Nomi up against Crimson really was the match to watch, and that really does solidify why they are first and second. As Rob did just touch on briefly before, though, Outlaws, they are sitting at third. But that margin, and we've discussed this, lads, at great deals, that margin of where they can sit really can go up and down. They're still sticking pretty strongly there. But I think really, as we've said, 4, 5, and 6 is where still there's a lot of turbulence there for them, Morton.
Yeah, I think after this week, we all saw kind of Aztec play a lot better than we expected. So we've seen them hop up a lot. And then we've also seen Downfall play a bit worse than most of us expected. But yeah, I think it's still kind of that big shake around with those 3, Aztec, Rich Gang, Downfall, which we'll probably see throughout the rest of the season. But yeah, I think big highlights are Rich Gang going down to 6th for most people, and then Aztec going up to 4th for most people.
Strider?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest point he made. I don't think there's anything else I can really touch on there.
What do you make of this one, Warren? I mean, we discussed about the top 2. The bottom 2 as well. We've always said that Mprox, formerly known as Neko Mimi, are this team that really have nothing to lose. And a lot of people feel like, this can be very demotivating for a team to be told, you're going to be 8th. There's not really much you can do. But surely, with them bringing in a player like Tool Dealer that has a bit of experience in that supporting role, they can just say, hey, we can really just try and establish ourselves as a team that can take away victories. Quick Match Warriors, I feel like their victory over Downfall isn't enough for us to bump them up any higher. I still think they would quite comfortably get beaten by the side of, like, say, Rich Gang or Aztec. But, that turbulence in that middle part of the pack, you've got a little bit different to some of us. Any justification for why you want Downfall to be as high as they are?
Me?
Yeah.
I mean, they've had one really good result, taking a set off a top 2 team. So I think that has to count for something. I think you guys are going a bit too high on Aztec, even though I like the players, but I wouldn't have them so high yet. Like, I don't think they're setting at what, two wins, 4 losses in sets. I think. Yeah. Like, granted, I'm pretty sure those are good teams that they've lost to, but I don't know. For now, I'd have Downfall at 4, even if they are very, very inconsistent. Like, their best is clearly decent, at least.
Yeah. Yeah, I think.
I wonder. I want to say, I just really wonder how close we want to try and justify the difference between these teams. You touched on before, 3 to 7 being very, very close. In terms of how close this is, Morton or even Rob for this, do we think it's enough to say if you go 2-1 in a set, that's enough to, like, change the position?
Well, I would have had, if Rich Gang had won 2-1 last week, I would have had them ahead of Aztec.
Yeah.
But, like, I didn't actually see those games, so I don't know how close they were, but yeah.
Not a series as a whole. It's really down to, like, the games on an individual basis as to, like, how close these teams really are. Would you say, Morty?
Yeah, I mean, like, we saw, like, Nomia go 2-0 over Crimson, but when you look at it, it's like, okay, the gap between these two teams is very minimal. And then I haven't managed to watch all of the Aztec games. I did see a few, and, like, they seemed fairly close against Outlaws, who, like we've said, number 3 the entire season pretty much. And then taking the 2-1 over Rich Gang. I haven't managed to watch those games yet, but I mean, I'd assume those games are also very close. But yeah, I think going 2-0, it kind of hard to judge, like, okay, this game was 2-1, so they're very close, or this was 2-0, so there's like a big gap when we haven't really managed to watch all the games because some of them were off stream and replays unavailable. But yeah, I think that Aztec wins and then being so close against Outlaws, I think justifies them being fourth for me.
I think we're just seeing a lot of teams. They're playing very up and down every week. And I mean, that's what's changing our power rankings. Like, Downfall a couple of weeks ago, or even a week ago, sorry, were hugely up. They beat Crimson. They were taking decent games. Hadn't lost a game yet. And then something like this happens. Kuramores jumps in. So it's going to be like this, I think, for the next few weeks, especially until it kind of settles.
There we go, guys. There we go. Week 4's predictions into the power rankings. That's where we think we are. I and Strider have gone for the same as Morton, so clearly that must mean that the Messiah is shining some beam of hope on towards us. I see that smile there, Morty. I see that smile. Now we're going to be jumping into the quick fire questions with robadobah. I see that smile on you as well, Rob. You are excited.
Quick fire.
And
Fantastic questions coming up soon.
This is the quick fire. 10 questions answered as quickly as possible with this week's guest, none other than robadobah. Are you ready, my friend?
Yes.
Yes, that is the most hesitant yes I've seen in a very long time. But let's jump into it anyway. Number 1, as quickly as you can, without any hesitation, who has been your favorite teammate to ever play with?
Arcana.
Arcana. What's your favorite roster you've ever played on?
Oh, that's too hard.
Ooh.
I don't know. Maybe I'll go Diamond Skin. I actually like this team a lot.
Ooh, ANZ put in the dirt. You heard it here first. Number 3, who is the best player in Europe?
That's a really hard one as well. I'm sorry. These are really bad quickfire questions. I'm having to ponder these. I think I'll go Poilk. Really good player.
I like it. I like it. Then it leads into our second question, which is who is the best player in ANZ? This could be new or this could be old. From your time or what you've observed recently?
It's really hard for me to judge when I'm not constantly playing against people because you do go up and down quite a bit and I can't really feel out how people are in ANZ right now. But I think maybe I'll go out on a limb and say maybe Penta at the moment. I think he's really good.
Interesting. Following that tanking role, which then goes on to our next question, which is who do you actually look up to as a tank?
In anywhere?
Anywhere.
Hooligan. I think Hooligan's the best tank in the world, and he's amazing to watch as well, if you've ever seen him.
Is it because of a play style in particular, or?
Just an absolute fearlessness. He will jump in on Mirrodin with 5% HP, and he won't die. And it's you question whether it's calculated or whether people are too scared to hit him. I don't know. Whatever it is, he's just an absolute god. So definitely him.
He's got that X factor, which then goes into which player in the world would you actually want to play with the most if you could have anyone, anywhere?
Well, can I choose a player which I wouldn't be able to communicate with?
Absolutely. Let's imagine you're in a time chamber where you could speak Korean, Chinese, everything.
Okay. Is this a world where I could play a role other than tank? Because in that world, I'd probably play with Hooligan.
Anywhere. Anything, yeah. Hooligan. What is the favorite team other than your own to watch?
Other than my own?
Mm-hmm.
That's implying I'd like watching my team.
I mean, I would hope you would.
I really like watching Tempest at the moment. They do crazy drafts and they are undefeated in Korean HGC, so go for Tempest.
In your decorated career as a HGC or HOTS player for the most part, what has been your favourite moment across that entire career?
Winning ANZ finals last year.
Thought so. What is your best tip for players to actually improve? Just one tip.
Just be really self-critical. Just always think during the game, what you could be doing, if anything you're doing is actually correct. Just always question yourself.
I like it. I like it. And then final question of the quick fire, which went a little bit like a slow fire, but discussing where will Diamond Skin finish at the end of this season?
I'd like to be optimistic. I think we'd even last split. I think we're a better team than what we showed in the HGC. We just kind of choked on the day a lot. So I'd hope we don't end up in Crucible.
But if you were in Crucible, you think your chances would be?
If we end up in Crucible, we'll requalify. Won't be an issue.
There you have it, guys. 10 questions from one of ANZ's finest exports all the way over to Europe. And then you have the answers. It's that time again. We've got week 4's schedule up and ready to rock and roll with. Let's actually see how these teams are going to pan out for the week ahead. Tuesday, we'll be starting off with Quick Match Warriors up against Outlaws. Lads, unanimous across the board here. Despite what Quick Match Warriors were able to do against Downfall, I still feel like Outlaws should have no struggles in this series at all.
Yeah, I think the caliber of players on both teams aren't really balanced. So I think Outlaws will take this out comfortably.
I think it's a foregone conclusion with that one, really, isn't it? I don't think there's really much more to say on that topic. Going into the next one, actually, it's back-to-back kind of brutality for Quick Match Warriors. Nomia is then going to be the next game on the night, so these guys are going to have a tough showing. Same across the board. Nomia have looked super clean. The hardest game they've had so far has been up against Crimson, but this one should also be a clean one in the park. Maybe a 9-minute win like Outlaws. Is that a bit too much? Too soon?
Too soon.
Too soon?
I think they haven't even dropped a map yet, so let's hope one of these teams can take a map off them.
Might be QM Warriors, you never know.
I mean, in Morton's eyes, it could be. It could be a win.
I mean, Morton's just going to say it right now so he can then try and reflect on this part of the podcast and go, look, guys, clip it, stream it, tweet it.
Yeah, QM Warriors lose 2-1 to Nomia. You heard it here first.
Ooh. That's me walking out of this show, and that's Rob saying, this is why I left ANZ. Boys. This is the big one for me. Downfall up against Crimson. This is the rematch. This has come really, really soon. This is really, really soon. So we've seen Crimson go up against Downfall. We said, man, is this a case of these two teams having very different styles of play? We've then seen them go up against Nomia, had a chance to really prove their might up against a Titan in the scene. But the rematch, we've all said that Crimson should win this one. Rob, in your eyes, what is different or what would you expect to see?
I just think from Crimson set against Nomia, that probably gave them a lot of self-belief. They probably know now that we can do it on the day because we're a good team. So I think they'll be fine this time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
anything else to add, lads?
They'll be a lot more prepared this time, I think. This is going to be a huge game for Crimson, right? It's we lost 2-0 to these guys. We definitely shouldn't have. Let's just show everyone what we're actually made of against these guys.
Rob, what do you think it takes? Like you said earlier that there's some games you probably dropped that you shouldn't have in Europe. What do you think is going to be the difference for them and, for you guys as well?
Confidence. It's when you get a level lead in HOTS, you have to believe that you're good enough to close it out. Because if you don't have that self-belief, then you make little mistakes or you don't make the aggressive plays that you could.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you're a confident team, you'll just put your foot in the throat in HOTS and you just snowball the game.
There's also the issue of overconfidence though, right? As in like Morton's Monkeys the other week, it's we have such a big lead and then it's you know what? We've got a lead, we can do anything, and it's okay.
Let's go for call, boys.
Yeah.
Too soon. Thursday is where the action then carries on. Aztec up against Crimson. Now, we have obviously all boosted up Aztec in terms of our beliefs where they are, but still we feel like Crimson should be the stronger team in this situation. Strider, do you think this one is going to be a full best of 3?
I don't think so. I think it'll be 2-0, but we did see the last time they played that Aztec probably, should have won that Battlefield game. So let's see how far they've improved. I caught a Hurley game with Lucky Dog this week. He went 16-2, so, they're putting the grind in. That's good. I just don't think it's going to be 3 games this one. I think it's going to be 2-0 still.
I think there's definitely the possibility of Aztec getting a game, honestly.
Against Crimson?
Yeah, I honestly do.
No, I don't think so.
All right, we'll see, Rob. We'll see.
Okay.
I don't
I'm
think
the
so,
Messiah
Morton.
around here, mate. I wouldn't be surprised if Aztec took a map. If they got the win, I'd be a bit shocked, probably a bit disappointed in Crimson. But yeah, I think Aztec will show up, put up a really good fight. And like we said before, it's Aztec have nothing to lose going into this. Put cards on the table. Don't worry about losing. Just leave it all out on the Nexus, as they say.
What's interesting, they have a lot to lose now. I mean, like Rob said, they've dropped 4 games. They can't afford to lose any more games. They want to be up there at the top of the table. They've got to win them.
But I mean, then realistically, they're not gonna be like, okay, we need to take this set against Crimson. Like it's not gonna happen realistically. So I think they'll be looking more like getting the points against the other games that they can clinch a lot easier.
I feel like you'd actually want to argue it's a must-win for Crimson, if anything, right? If they're looking to try and secure their ticket to go to Brazil, they can't afford to be dropping games like this.
No, especially after dropping against Downfall. It's like, well, they took out Outlaws, who are arguably the competition for that second place spot, but then they're actually now equal with Outlaws on points because they dropped the game to Downfall. So, yeah, they're going to have to basically win every game from here on out, except possibly the Nomiya games.
Mprox up against Rich Gang. Should there be any turbulence in a match like this? I feel like the caliber of players is quite night and day.
I mean, we did see Mprox. They got Tool Dealer and they got ADS as well. I actually think ADS played pretty well for his first game, and they actually looked fairly good. Who did they play against last week? Sorry, it was actually
Mprox up against. If we scroll to the top,
they played Outlaws last week.
Yeah, they actually put up a fairly decent fight. Like, we thought, okay, that's going to be a walk in the park for Outlaws. But there was definitely signs of life there for Mprox. So, I mean, I wouldn't even write them out of matches anymore. I think their lineup's somewhat decent. But in saying that, it is Rich Gang, who I think should be able to take this one out. But I'd like to see Mprox play well on the day.
Reckon it's still going to be a 2-0, though?
Yeah, I think so.
I see a smile on Rob's face. There's an answer behind that smile. Come on, Rob, spill the beans.
I think Rich Gang aren't too bad. Like, I got some belief in them. I think they could challenge for this set.
Rich Gang could challenge for the set.
Oh wait, are we talking Outlaws versus Downfall?
We're talking Mprox versus Rich Gang.
Control, mate.
I'm like,
look, we know
Rich Gang could challenge Mprox. And he's
it's 1:30 a.m. here. Give me a break.
We respect that. Don't worry, mate.
No,
Let's move on to the next game.
Let's actually jump into that one. So it looks like Rob in post-production does know what he's talking about. Outlaws up against Downfall. We've all said Outlaws. Downfall, the team that have gone up and down. They are kind of like that river stream. I think this is a bit of a defining match, really, for that third spot, quite honestly, in my opinion, as to exactly how set in stone that third spot place is there, Strider.
Yeah, this is going to be an Outlaws one, I think. Downfall have a lot to prove. It's more Downfall than Outlaws. They lost last week to QMO, so they've got a lot on the line here. I think Icebold's beautiful accent, the shot calls come out. They take the game. Maybe 2-1 here. Maybe Downfall get a cheese win on one of the maps, but I think everyone's learnt from Crimson's mistake, and I don't think Downfall are going to be as imposing as they were after beating Crimson.
Yeah.
Easy as. I think that's it. Pretty much says it right there. The one that is interesting for me, however, is the next series, including Outlaws. Outlaws up against Rich Gang. All of us in the panel have said Outlaws. robadobah has gone for the Rich Gang. He has the belief. He's got that execution, and that smile still remains. What is the thought behind this one here, mate?
I think Rich Gang are going to take an upset win. Like, I think they're an okay team, and they seem to go 1-2 a lot of the time. So I reckon it's time for them to get a 2-1.
Well, let's talk about it. They lost to this 2-1 last time, right? And we probably thought the Rich Gang should have beaten Outlaws if they banned the Tyrrell.
Oh, yeah.
That is true. That is true.
I mean, this was the one game we thought they would win last time. So Rob's barking up the right tree here, I think.
Yeah.
So essentially, if Tyrrell gets banned, this series should go in favor of Rob, and we all will look like boosted monkeys.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Rob's just looking for that, that special moment where he makes one call where against everyone else. But yeah, I actually do
Rob
think
Gang.
I think there definitely is the possibility of Rich Gang taking this out. Like we said, 2 weeks ago, they could have won it quite well if certain things happened. So this will be a very interesting matchup. And Outlaws do have 2 games on the same night, so it kind of limits their preparation, and they can be a bit drained after how close their previous game goes, right? So we'll have to see what happens.
They're 2 big games as well. Downfall, Rich Gang, like those
right,
mid-tier teams. Not like they're just having a Neko Mimi or Kyomoro's kind of game. It's going to be a big night for them.
Actually, following that,
Improv, sorry.
Yeah, no, Quick Match Warriors have a big night ahead of them, or a big week ahead of them. Same for Aztec, actually, because they're going to go up against Nomia. So after going against Crimson, up against Nomia as well, we've all said that Nomia should quite comfortably win this one. I'd agree. I don't feel like there should be any 2-1 situations present in this. But, Aztec are the team that we've put a lot of faith in, and said they have that development process behind them. What do we expect to see from them? We saw Downfall try and bust up some cheese strategies up against Nomia, like a Cho'Gall, for instance, right? Are we going to see anything, from your guys' opinion, different from Aztec, or do you think it's just going to come to clean draft, clean execution, and just see if they can try and net a win based on that alone?
I don't really see Aztec as one of those kind of cheesy teams. I do know Laka has quite a few kind of pocket picks up his sleeve that he might flip out on the day. Yeah. So, I think, I don't think it'll be the closest of games, but it'll be interesting to see how Aztec approach the matchup, which is going to be a bit rough for him.
It's usually going to have to draft. Like we've seen them, is the team fight's just so much cleaner than anyone in the region at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So if Aztec can make sure they draft well, similar to what Downfall did to Crimson, I think that's the only chance they really have to even take a map here.
Any closing words, Rob?
I think Nomi will just be too good in this matchup. They can Aztec can try to cheese, but I've never seen cheese work in ANZ. It just turns into a 5-level loss.
Well, there you have it. That is week 4's predictions under wraps. That's what we expect to see, and that's what we're going to be looking to, well, I suppose, see if Rob, as well as Morton, still are the messiahs that they've come to be known as. There we go.
Right, Rob. Welcome to the midstream meme. Now, after Skimmy's little segment, this is going to be a little bit more deep, meaningful, this one. I want to see some quick fire answers. We're going to have a few words that I want to hear your first response to. Now, first thing that comes to mind. You ready? You excited?
Okay. Yeah, hit me.
All right. Apple.
Pie.
Spoon.
Fork.
Joke.
You.
Heroes of the Storm. Fuck, that's brutal.
Casual MOBA.
Korea.
Wait, what Korea?
Korea.
Korea or Korea?
Korea.
Heroes of the
country. League of Legends.
Shit.
Granny porn.
What?
Granny porn.
Not my thing.
Skimmy's tan.
Glowing.
Rat.
Dog.
England.
Shit accents.
Nomia.
Boosted.
Explicit.
God.
Bronze League.
ANZ.
Adelaide.
Crows.
Gillyweed.
Lovely.
Arcana.
God.
Morton's Smile.
Even lovelier.
Dog.
Fred.
Tinder.
Not for me.
Dettol.
I don't know.
Immunity.
Good times.
Thank you for the mid-season meet.
Time for a brand new segment on Good Call, Bad Call. This is going to be called Meta Snapshot, where we get to utilize the pro player as the guest to give their opinion, their professional opinion, on why they think the meta is as such. robadobah, a couple of questions, really, I suppose, that spring to mind for you. What is your opinion on the meta as a whole, globally, or even just from your take of it so far?
I think it's in an interesting place because they haven't really nerfed anything for a while. So right now there's like a whole group of heroes that are, I guess, OP.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of the situation where when like 5 or 6 heroes are OP, you don't really know what to pick first a lot of the time. You're not really sure what to ban.
Do you feel like in some way it's almost a disadvantage at this current stage to actually get first pick, given that point you just bring up?
Well, I think at Western Clash, second pick was winning more. It's hard to say though. Like, fuck, I don't know.
Yeah,
what's the current like drafting meta? Because most of the time you see like a Maeve ban and then a Blaze ban, right? Would you say
Well,
that's current meta, or
in Europe right now, things have changed a lot. Just from the Sonya and Medivh reworks, like the heroes
okay,
are really strong.
we haven't really
So
seen
that's
that
another
much
factor.
in ANZ here because we did
We
see
saw the Medivh
we saw the
that played
Medivh
very
pick.
well.
Yeah,
Mm.
that was like a third pick, and we saw
Mm.
Ryu said on Twitter like they hadn't actually even practiced Medivh, and they just flopped it out in an official game against their biggest competitor. So I mean, they must think it's pretty strong to kind of pull it out when they haven't even practiced it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it is really strong.
What
I
about
don't know whether
Sonya?
it's first pick strong, but yeah, Sonya's good as well. Like even after they nerfed the block talent, she's still probably the strongest solo laner at the moment.
Really? Okay.
Which is also interesting because like Blaze has been occupying the first pick sort of solo laner role,
Yeah,
but then he actually gets bullied in by the new Sonya, so that kind of changes things up a bit.
Sonya Malthael, because Malthael for a long time, even before Blaze was released, right, was that top lane bully. Would you say the new Sonya? Have you had a chance to actually experiment with that kind of matchup?
Yeah, it's like it is a bit rock paper scissory because Malthael fell out of favor for a little while, but he is one of the only solo laners that can really stand up against Sonya and like beat her in trades. Like no one else can really even walk up and trade her at the moment.
I think for if we go back to sort of the global stage of things, there was obviously for a long time the double support meta, right? All about those hyper carries, your Valas, your Greymanes. Do you feel that meta compared to this one that we're in right now, is there a preference that you would say between the two?
Well, do you mean like when people are doing the double support Valor kind of comps?
Yeah, like do you enjoy playing in that style of comp compared to what we have now? What would be your preference?
Oh, I much prefer now. I don't think double support was very fun for the game.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Not at all.
I don't think anyone actually. Well, I think it'd be hard to find people that enjoyed double support, right? Because it was like it basically just made you'd have like one hyper carry who like they'd have so much fun, whatever. But team fights just kind of like just went on and on. Just it was like who could out sustain the other team like the most. Yeah, I think this current meta is like a lot more fun for probably the majority of players, right?
The team fights are a lot more interesting, definitely. Like I enjoy watching the team fights.
I think one of the things that drew me to HOTS was that it felt like all 5 players had like a relatively even contribution, I guess. Like even damage-wise, like you'd play tank, like you play a Nubarak and end up topping damage.
Yeah.
And then I don't know. I just don't like seeing one hero make the whole game about them.
Yeah.
Like that's why I don't like Thrall either at the moment. Just mindless.
Yeah, how much priority would you give Thrall? Well, the new Thrall.
I don't think he's as good in competitive because, like, if you want to decisively engage on Thrall, he's still kind of vulnerable. Like, if you want to dive him, he can still die. But then in Hero League, you just get so much value because, like, games drag out longer than they should and focus is a bit split. And then the whole game, Thrall's just going to be clicking Q on people. And eventually it means everyone's going to die at some point.
Just like a 1k poke just casually across like 4 people and you're like, oh, okay, good game, Crash Lightning, by the way. I think the point I want to discuss, at least final question for me anyway, is we saw a big priority on the Shimada brothers between both Hanzo and Genji for such a long time. It does now seem to have shifted to a big priority on team comps being built around like a Tracer or a Maiev. Are there any common synergies with those two heroes that would justify them being banned or picked as much as they are, Rob?
For what, Genji and Hanzo, or do you mean Maiev Tracer?
For Tracer and Maiev.
Well, Tracer is just OP at the moment because her bomb just deals too much damage and you're always going to have that pick potential. So Tracer, like, you can try to take the Malfurion away from Tracer, but I don't think that stops Tracer from being a good hero. And if you want to make a pocket comp, you can still pick like Tassadar with it even. But I think what's really good about Tracer is that she doesn't even need a comp at the moment to be really effective and to always have that threat like post 10, post 20, these just huge power spikes where you can essentially just blink in from like a screen away and then kill a backliner.
Mm-hmm.
And then as for Maev, that hero just does ridiculous things. Like when played well, like she just finds an angle, she flanks in, she pulls someone, and then if her team follows up at all, that person will die.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like I think they might need to tune that hero a little bit more. But I guess it's a similar case with Tracer where you pick her, you've instantly got some kind of win condition.
Mm-hmm.
Like she's gonna do something really impactful in terms of like deleting a hero, winning you a fight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting. Like you said, like people used to always have to run tests with the Tracer. Now it's basically like, first it was like, oh, you can run Malfurion with Tracer, you can always be healing her with this new kit, right? And now it's like people are banning out the Malfurion, and it's like, all right, well, we don't even need that anymore with Tracer. Like, I think I kind of missed that, because what really changed between those 2 points where it was like, okay, someone needs to pocket Tracer, to now, all right, Tracer's just so OP, you can just run her by herself.
It's really hard to say. Like, part of it is just different things sort of shift in the game.
Yeah.
And then, like, during that whole double support phase, Tracer wasn't as popular because you've got so much healing. Like,
Yeah.
the Tracer bomb, if it doesn't kill anyone, then, you know, she's obviously not as good. But now that you don't have a whole bunch of healers to go up against, you can just run in, delete someone.
Pop back
Or at
out.
least, like, force all the healers' cooldowns or something. Like, chunk someone out of the fight.
Yep.
If I was to just chuck something out there with this new Medivh, we've always known that Medivh has been a bit of a counter towards Tracer. Do you feel like we might start to see double support comps in inverted commas, right, with Medivh being picked into a support as well, to look to try and shut down these kind of comps where it's all about Tracer getting value with the bomb?
Yeah, it's possible. He's probably not as big of a counter to her anymore because, like, his shield used to be on a 5-second cooldown, but now it's 8. So she will have like some windows to bomb someone. Like, it's hard to always have the shield up like you used to. But I could see it happening. Like, and I could also see a meta where Medivh like starts to be the dominant figure. Like, if people play him well enough, I think maybe he could be a first pick. Like, maybe we could see a new meta develop just from him.
Yeah. 'Cause before, I think it was like you only saw Medivh in certain situations, right? Like very niche situations. And now he's getting to the point where it's like, I just flop out a Medivh, you know. There he goes on his
flop
own.
it out,
Like,
mate.
doesn't even need synergy at this point. Because like we used to see a lot of like there was like the infamous Stitches Medivh comp for a bit. That people used to always run on towers, and then we saw teams playing Diablo Medivh a lot. And now it's kind of like, okay, we can probably just play Medivh whenever. Just don't even have to synergize with anything, which is a bit... I'm not the biggest fan, because I don't think Medivh's like the most fun heroes to play against. But yeah, we'll see what happens with him.
No, it's like just take that Raven Talon at 4, get your whole team around, and then just portal on someone.
Yeah.
And birds just delete them.
Yeah. Nice.
Any questions from you, Strider?
Yeah, well, just the last thing I guess from us is you're obviously a main tank. What's your thoughts on the tank meta at the moment? What's your your pocket picks, your meta picks? What's your thought on the whole scene now?
I think tanks are in a pretty good place because I think everything's like pretty viable at the moment. Well, I think my pocket pick is probably Garrosh, but now it's becoming too meta. Like, I can't really claim that it's my pick anymore. But yeah, I think tanks are just in a really, really good spot. Like, probably more so than any other role, just because depending on like what you sort of need within a comp, you can usually find something. And I think it's also interesting the spot that Tyrell's in right now. Because it's a situation where you have a main tank hero that doesn't have like any CC. Like, you're probably not going Judgment 90% of the time, but he is just so ridiculously strong in terms of like his utility towards the team, like shielding, and then past 13 when you go law and order, he actually does quite a lot of damage too. So like, it's fun to play like that kind of playstyle as well, where you don't always have to be a CC bot. You can actually like just do things more utility based and try to like jump in, kill people maybe.
Yeah, super disruptive, I found.
There we have it. The meta snapshot just said and done. A brand new segment. Thank you very much, robadobah, for your opinion on the matter. And we'll look forward to seeing what the sort of general feedback is from the community as a result of this segment in particular too.